So we got these doors trimmed out with the jambs and the exterior trim, which I used all PVC boards. This is PVC and this is PVC, so it can't rot. So we got both of these done, the jambs and the exterior trim. And then this one, I also put an interior trim, which is just finger joint primed wood pine. And this is basically to mount the brackets to for the garage door. And it also gives it a stop so that when I continue on here, I can just put a J channel because I'm going to have metal siding. This gives the J channel a place to kind of rest against and be finished up till here. So here's some of the materials that I'm going to be using to install these doors. And there's the panels and the springs and the angle iron and all of the brackets and screws, bolts, nuts, cables and stuff like that. So basically from here on out in this video, pretty much everything that we're going to be doing is something that I don't have a lot of experience with. So we're all going to be kind of learning as I go. I've installed a few garage doors, but nothing this big. I think the biggest one I've done is like a 9x7. And it's been like 10 years, so I don't remember really much about it. But the company that I got these from wanted like $2,000 to install these doors. So I figured even if it takes me a couple days, I'm still money ahead. But also, they needed a few more weeks to install them. So also I'm time ahead too by doing it myself, as long as I'm careful. But moving forward in the video, after we do this, I'm doing a bunch of other things that I don't really have experience with. So this is kind of a learning video from here on out. 2, 3, 4, 5.
up so fast, I don't think we need anything on that pile. Over. Go. Cut that later. Make that nice. Wrap it around there. Do one in the middle.
I learned that trick from R&R Buildings. So like I said, I have very little experience for everything that I'm doing in this video. I have not done a lot of metal work. I've done a few roofs, but I've never done it as siding, so we're gonna learn together. But that's a rat guard strip so that rodents and bugs can't get underneath the little lip, because the ridges on the siding stick out, and if you just leave them down there, stuff will get up underneath of them. And I actually had these made up for here, but these are not the right profile, so I had to make my own, simply because the foam is sticking out, so I had to bump it out further and then lip it down. Did we ever bring the screws out? Man, that's like beautiful. The pre-drilled screws works really well. That's awesome.
side.
Alright, so I know we've been skipping around a little bit on this video with different things that we're doing, and the priority should be the roof. But if you guys remember in the video where I was fixing this machine, we were having a bunch of problems with it. So we got everything worked out. We got all the oil out of the coolant, and we got all of the coolant out of the transmission. So now we're ready to actually start using this. And so now we can actually start doing the roof. So we're gonna start with this side of the roof, and I gotta trim that tree a bunch before I do that because we got 25-foot panels that need to go along here. So I need to trim back quite a bit there. And then we're gonna take that basket, we're gonna lay some 2x6s on there that are 16 feet long, and then we can put these 25-foot pieces of steel on the basket and go up there and use the boom lift to get up and down ourselves, and then we'll use the telehandler with the basket to just sit there with the panels on it. So the first thing we need to do is get up there and put drip edge on, and I overhung the ice and water by about 2 inches, so I'm going to fold that over, nail it on the face or the fascia, and then we can put our drip edge on top of that. And then we got to mark out 3-foot centers for our pads that go underneath of the roofing, and that's so that bugs and stuff don't go inside of the ribs. All right, so the way we were doing that before, that was not working. I thought having them like this would be great because then there's very little movement, but it just doesn't work because the sheets overhang on this side so much that I didn't realize that you couldn't get against the building right here where I was standing to do anything. So then the person over here is like way out here and they can't do anything. So what we did is flip around the sheets so that they're going like this. So now when we go up, we can get right against the building and I can just pick up the sheets, swing them 90 degrees and put them on the roof. I think that should be a lot easier. That didn't make sense to me until I actually tried to do that and I realized that the math doesn't work. If the sheets were only to right here, then that would have kind of worked. But still, I think this is going to be a lot easier. These are 25 feet long, so they're going to be a little bit hard to pick up, but I'm going to kind of U-shape them as I pick them up and then swing it over 90 degrees. Permanently stretched out or something. Just hold on, just set it down. Let me just get back underneath. That way I can walk a lot more before letting it go. Yeah, see, now that lines up perfect. I can guarantee That makes a nice tether spot for the fall protection. Instead of hooking in on the roof and being down and dragging all over the roof, you hook it up there. Plus, we're getting to the point where we need to take that bracket out of there, and then I needed to put it on top of the metal roofing, which I really wasn't interested in doing. You can kind of get away with shingles doing that, but it's not that easy with this. You're going to have holes in the metal roofing, and I really didn't want to have that. So, and I also don't have a ridge beam, so I can't attach to the center in between where the ridge vent is going to go either. So I probably could have screwed some 2x4s together up there and went in between the trusses, but it only took a few minutes to get this thing over here, and now we got a good anchor point. Okay, so now that the roof is all done, we got to put our gable end trim on, or rake trim, I guess you could call it. And so I've cut this piece down so that it's pretty much flush with the edge here, or even a little bit in. You don't want it sticking out at all. And then I got this piece right here, which is the rake trim. So the idea is that this goes on here like that, and then this part here sticks up the same amount that those ribs do, so that underneath of here can be a rib, because sometimes it will fall on a rib. And then this part will be level with the top of the rib, so it can go over top of the rib. In this case, I don't really have a rib here, so I need to kind of fake a rib there. And the way that you can do that is run a straight edge from a few ribs over to here, and you kind of raise it up enough where it matches and it's the same height. Because otherwise it'll look weird if it's not. Because then it'll make this piece kind of angled down like this. And you don't want it like that, you want it like this. And then underneath of this part right here, this lip right here, you need to seal that up so that water doesn't get in underneath and then go down your rake end, your fascia there. So a lot of people will use a butyl strip there, but I think it's just easier to use silicone underneath of there. And some people will frown upon that because they'll say that silicone isn't like UV resistant and everything, and I get that, but it's going to be underneath of that lip, so it doesn't need to be UV resistant. That's one thing you got to think about when you're doing roofing. If the sealant needs to be exposed, then there's only a few sealants that can do that and actually hold up over time. Most sealants will dry and crack up, and in general they'll just deteriorate. But if you can cover them with something, some sort of counter flashing or whatever the choice may be, then they should in theory last forever, or at least for a very, very long time. So in this case, silicone will work just fine. So now that will look pretty good once I put the fascia on there. The fascia will tuck up underneath of here and wrap around and cover the rough cuts of the soffit. And everything will look very good. Somehow these panels were off on the top. They were pushed out just a little bit more than the bottom. So on 64 feet, I think it was about 1.5 inches difference, which is actually a lot, but there's not really a whole lot you can do about it. I think what it is the way that they make these, the Amish make these actually, the ones that I bought. And I think their machine just isn't super accurate. So the spread on these ribs, if they're a 1/16 off from the top to the bottom, now you times that by 4 ribs on 20-something sheets, and all of a sudden that makes a difference. Even if it's a 32nd of an inch, even a 64th of an inch difference on this long of a span, on that many ribs, makes a huge difference. So that's why they make this gable or rake trim here to go over it, because that way you don't have to be super accurate, which you really can't be. You're kind of at the mercy of whatever these are formed up to be. And these ribs don't exactly match, which I was worried about all this stuff before I started, but as I'm going along, I just got less and less worried about it, because I'm like, you know what, there's really nothing you can do about it. And also, you can probably see the color difference right there. Kind of had an accident and had to replace some panels. So I'm not sure if it's a different color here, or if the panels that are existing just got a little bit yellowed up and these ones are just more white. Hopefully they'll start blending in from the sun. I'm not really sure, but in any case, yeah, had a little accident. I'm not gonna worry people about it. Nobody got hurt, but my pride and this building got a little bit hurt. So we kind of lost a few days and had to redo some things, but we're back on track. So now I can get the other side wrapped up, and then I can do the ridge cap. And this is going to be a vented ridge, so we need to put some foam there that vents through the ridge. Want to just reel it in another foot? All right, I'm going to very lightly put it down.
Okay. You get your end on, and then I'll put my end on. Not my end.
Yeah. How does that look? It looks pretty straight to me.
That looks really straight. I can dig it.
Most likely probably gonna end up getting rain if this got close.
So one thing I wanted to show you guys, something that I've learned along the way, and this is the same for pretty much anything you're doing, like vinyl siding. It kind of all applies to the same principle. So to put this J channel on, first I got to put my piece on the bottom there, that piece down there, and then I overlap it with this J channel here. And then what I do is, it's flush with the top of the trim of the door, and then the other piece of J channel goes over top of it, which is a little bit different than if you were to do vinyl siding, because you want to put a miter there. But in this case, to be able to fit this metal siding here, you really need to be able to slide it left or right. You don't really want to be like sliding it left or right and up and down, because it doesn't really bend enough to put it into places. If you've done a lot of vinyl siding, you know what I mean. Vinyl siding, you can bend it to put wherever you want, but this stuff doesn't really do that. So you need to put the J channel over top of this piece, so the piece of J channel on top overhangs, and then the water goes down the drip edge. So what I like to do on this is cut it right there, but the back side, or the flange, I like to go up above. And by doing that, then you put this piece over top of here, which this isn't the piece that belongs here, but see, now if water comes down, if you just end this flange right here, then it gives the water a place to go behind this flange. So by leaving this flange long, it doesn't really need to be that long, like even a ½ inch is fine, but I just like to do an inch. Then the water that gets in the top of here just sort of goes right here and goes right down the side, and then you don't have to worry about water getting behind this. You want to keep the water in front of the J channel. So that's just a little detail, and this is something I had to figure out for metal siding, but basically you have to put the sides and the bottom on first, the bottom first and then the sides, and then you put the steel in, and then you put your J channel in afterwards, the piece that goes on the top here. That slips behind, and I'll show you that when I go to put that on. But for right now, we need to finish these last few pieces, and then I'm gonna go around and do all the J channel on the top, and I'll show you guys what that looks like when I do that. But basically, when you put the piece up here, you want to run a little bit of a line that way so that the J channel slips behind it. I'll show you guys that in a minute, but we need to get this finished out. This is going to be a little tricky around here, but I have some ideas.
plenty far.
Oh, that's
you just set it down so I can get on that side or something. You get on that side.
All right, so while that looks really nice being 20 feet long like that, it is a total pain to put that up there. And especially when we get into cutting for lights, and I got garage door brackets that I need to cut around and stuff. So I think what we're gonna do is take the entire stack that I have left of this, we're gonna cut them into 10-foot pieces. We're gonna leave this piece up here, so there won't be a joint on this, but there will be a joint on the rest of them at 10 feet. So there will just be twice as many joints up there, but at the end of the day, what does it really matter? It's gonna make it so much easier to install these, because then we don't have to have that platform that we just built, which is in the way. So you got this thing there, and it's like in the way of everything, and then you can't maneuver around with it. So we can take that off and then put 10-foot pieces up very easily. And for those of you that are wondering, we're gonna put the prop event up later. There's plenty of room up there. It doesn't look like it right now, but there's like 3 feet of headroom there, so you can actually sit up and put the prop event in. And we also figured out that just using regular staples works fine. These are a 1/4-inch staple, and rather than use a million of these and take forever, these will work just fine. You're not worried about waterproofing anything, so you don't need to worry about the washers, and you're not holding any weight really, so you don't really need to worry about putting a million of them in there. Although we could put as many as we want and still be 10 times faster than the screws. So instead of putting 1 screw in between each rib, we could just put 2 staples, and I'm sure that would be more than adequate. The only thing that's going to hold up is blown-in insulation, and that's not very heavy. And from down here, I can't see any staples in there whatsoever, whereas the screws I actually would see. just like butter all day long. What?
Back 2 inches. Go down. Perfect. You can go a little bit. That behind you. What? Go. That side can go down. You're like an inch right now.
Good.
3/8.
All right, so I am really happy that we are completely 100% done with the siding and the roofing, soffit and the fascia, the doors and the windows, and the ceiling inside. This was definitely a major project. Partly because I don't do this type of work. Also partly because it's just a lot of square footage to do. I'm not sure if I addressed this earlier in the video or not, but I will now anyways. I was going to use a transition strip between the two colors there, like you normally would see. I bought the transition strip, but when I put it on there, I just did not like the look of it. It just looked like, it didn't look as clean. I don't know how to describe it, but I know that's normally what you do, but I just didn't like it. So I ended up using those pieces inside to trim out around the outside of the ceiling. It kind of acted like a J-channel put on its side. So it didn't go to waste, but I didn't need to use it inside. I could have used J-channel. So like I said, I wasn't trying to cheap out by not putting it in, because I did buy it, but I just didn't like the look of it. And also, wherever that transition strip met up with the corners and the doors and one of the windows. It was just a weird situation where they met up. I didn't like that either. So that's sort of the determining factors of why I didn't use that. And I don't see any problem with doing this. I've seen a couple buildings done like this, but not many. 90% of them are done with the transition strip. But I'm perfectly happy with it the way it is. I don't see any problems. As long as you got a little bit of overlap. It's not like a roof where you need a bunch of overlap. 1 inch of overlap is perfectly fine. And you could see that I put that 1/2 inch insulation on there. I just wanted to sort of give it a thermal break between the inside and outside. I know it's not much. 1 inch would have been a lot better. 2 inches would have been really good. If I put 2 inches, I probably wouldn't have even had to do insulation inside. But trying to put siding on with 2 inches of insulation, you probably would have needed some more girts on the outside on top. And then that was just a whole other process. So I figured 1/2 inch was just about the most you really want to do without getting really long screws and just making it just really ridiculous to put the siding on. So 1/2 inch is what I chose. And then on the inside, we'll get going on insulating it soon too. And I also figured, since it was like almost 24 feet from the bottom of those white panels all the way up to the peak, I didn't really want to handle 24-foot pieces there. So I figured, let's just do 18-foot pieces. And then I did like a 6-foot at the most on the top there piece along the top. So it kind of switches back to the gray, which is something you don't normally see, but I kind of like it. Kind of looks neat. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier in the video or not, but I did want the lightest color possible because keeping the heat out is really the bigger goal here. Keeping the heat out actually does something, whereas if you live in a cold area, you don't really want to make it like a dark color because it will attract heat, but it really doesn't do a lot from the outside. So if you're gonna pick a color, it's better to pick a cooler color even if you live in a colder area, because trying to heat a little bit extra from the sun just doesn't really do anything. But it will overheat it in the summertime if you have a dark color and you live in a moderate area or southern area. I also think that white is sort of the color of work. Like, work trucks are white a lot, work vans are white. You can see I have my work trailer there, that's white. It just sort of matches the work style, but it was nice to have the gray on the bottom. And one of the reasons I wanted to put that in there is because if you're going to damage any panels, it's going to be on the bottom 4 feet. So to replace a 4-foot section is no big deal, whereas if you go all the way up with the white or whatever color you're doing, then you got to replace the whole panel, which that is a pretty big ordeal. Also, before I get the gutters, there's going to be a lot of water pouring off of the eave ends and hitting the ground and splashing back onto the first 4 feet there. So keeping it a little bit darker of a color was sort of the goal there. So there's a few different reasons why I did everything I did. There wasn't really one reason why I did anything that I did. It was just sort of a combination of things. I know some people don't like bird boxes. I like them myself. I think they suit the building most of the time. I think it looks really good here. Sometimes there is buildings that don't really look that great with it, but in this case, it does look good. Yeah. So you can see this ceiling brightens it up a lot in here, especially with the light coming in from the windows. Not so much from these lights because they are directly facing away from the ceiling, but having a white ceiling will definitely help. But the walls being white will be even better. That will really make a lot of light in here. And then in here we just put plywood on the ceiling. So we'll probably end up like painting that white or something. I just didn't want to get involved in putting this in these rooms because there's just a lot of ins and outs and stuff, and was just more trouble than it was worth. Plus, there's going to be an access to the attic, probably right here. So it was just easier to just put some OSB in here and call it done. And then in this room here, we have a bunch of storage. So I built some shelves in this room, just on those two walls. And then once I get everything inspected, insulated, and all the electric done, then we'll put shelves on this wall and this wall too. And believe it or not, there is a massive amount of stuff in here right now that I brought from the 53-foot trailer. I cleared out like a 30 to 40 foot section and put it right here. Just organized it and threw out some stuff. So this made a huge difference. So you can see we got the big 53-foot trailer out of here, and I had another smaller 20-foot trailer over there. We got those all out of here. We're starting on the next project, which is going to be installing 2 shipping containers over there. One is for plumbing and electric supplies. The other is for miscellaneous stuff, and then I'll probably build a roof between them. So that'll be right there into the hillside. I got to dig back. So a lot of the stuff that we took out of the trailers is over there, and then once that's done, we'll put all that stuff back. So we're getting going on that project right now, along with a lot more site work around here to just get a lot more room. It's really starting to shape up around here, especially taking this trailer out of here. That was like a major obstacle that was in the way, and it just sort of divided the areas, whereas now we have like a big parking area. So hopefully I can get my semi-truck with the low boy down here, my dump truck with the deck over trailer over here, and everything to do with work can stay in this area here. This is about a little over an acre, and it's perfect for just everything that I got going on to keep it away from my house. So to bring you up to speed about the next few projects here, that's the project, the shipping containers and doing some site work. And then the next project is going to be putting a big giant solar array on the roof, which I am really excited to do because I have a bunch of solar panels and I really want to start making some serious power here. So that is something that's coming up pretty soon. And I guess that's it for this video, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.